Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. On today's episode, oh man, we got tons of news, including growing frustration within AEW. How much more can it grow? Because I feel like we do this story once a quarter, but evidently there's even more growth of frustration.
Or it's just persistent,
nagging frustration within AEW. There is kind of an interesting sort of sub-story within that one, but we're going to get to that in a second here. We're also going to talk about the latest on Drew McIntyre's contract status. Larson, there was a YouTube comment the other day that said, why are you guys so obsessed with this man's contract? It's none of your business.
He's doing great work. I'm just curious what his future holds. That's it.
Look, this is like, that's what we do. It's back. Yeah. It's behind the scenes news because, you know, they don't offer that stuff up. So we need to speculate here on the show. It is our business, Larson, as far as I'm concerned.
Our business is talking about the backstage comings and goings.
Exactly. That YouTube commenter is trying to take food off my family's table, Larson.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But first, this is interesting. So we might have some more information about a big old blunder on WWE's part, more specifically one Paul Levesque, known as the Cerebral Assassin. And yes, I will be offering up a conspiracy theory during this story, Larson. Conspiracy
Shocking. Conspiracy Steve is back.
He's back, and he's got his, what was it, Triple H?
Hat on, huh?
Triple H is what? It was like his lats, right? Or no, these are the traps. No.
Trapezius muscles, yeah.
He's a trap. Remember when he came? Oh, these are the lats. His lats were massive when he came back.
Yeah, he could put his arms down. Yeah. Yeah.
He couldn't exactly.
Yeah,
in that cool denim jacket, leather vest combo.
Yeah, anyways, once here at the side of the back. Anyway, so yeah, Dave Meltzer and the crew over there at Wrestling Observer, those other guys have been a bit all over the map in regards to figuring out what's been going on before, during, after the whole Rock, Roman, Cody thing starting at February 2nd SmackDown. It's like basically every scenario has either been speculated upon, some aspect of it reported on. Is it a work? Was it a work in the beginning? Did it start, shoot, end up work? It's like it's all been discussed and all been like there's been angles where people have various perspectives on what it is over there.
Right, yeah.
It's been all over the map. So, in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer reported the following, quote, "It was said that it was Levesque's idea for what happened on the February 2nd show, with the idea that if Rhodes endorsed The Rock, it tied up the storyline and hoped that the endorsement from Rhodes would avoid a backlash that was definitely expected and planned for, but not to the extent it actually happened. Obviously, that backfired, and Johnson and Brian Gewirtz's reaction was that if he was going to get booed, he should be a heel, and it appears Rock and Reigns versus Rhodes and Rollins was the answer. Whatever it is, it should be made clear on the February 16th episode of SmackDown. That's tonight. Here's more from Dave about how the process was booked from Triple H, Cerebral Assassin, King of Kings, the game, Paul Levesque.
The game.
The Levesque idea was said to be to shoot an injury angle where the Bloodline would take out Rhodes on the February 2nd show in Birmingham. This would lead to the official announcement of Reigns versus Rock at the press conference in Las Vegas. In the end, Rhodes would return and he should win the title. Rhodes was never going to get screwed and was always going to get a match with Reigns, but whether it would be at Mania or shortly after is not clear. But this was always an angle to build to Reigns versus Rhodes. Where that is said to have changed is that Punk got hurt, leaving Rollins without an opponent. Levesque at the time made the move to put Rhodes in the spot, which is where the plan of Rollins versus Rhodes for night 1 and Rock versus Reigns for night 2 came. At that point, Rhodes was not going to face Reigns at Mania, but still would after. Let's take a break here before we get to this other part, which I don't know where this other thing comes from, honestly.
Okay. I haven't read the other thing, so I'm excited, Larson.
It's something. It's something else. So,
okay, golly, let's try to wrap our heads around this one. So the idea was they would do an injury angle on the February 2nd show. Now, the February 2nd show is where Rhodes stepped out of the way for The Rock.
Yes.
But because at the Rumble, Punk got injured, they didn't do the injury angle, and instead they had Seth Rollins start pitching to Cody Rhodes, choose me.
Yes.
And then the February 2nd show where Rhodes says, I'm doing this for The Rock, that was meant to be an endorsement from Rhodes, from
Cody. There was
Cody.
nothing about Cody's performance during that came like, yes, I'm excited for The Rock to get this match.
That did not come off like, it came off like a, hey, okay, so to be fair, I'm not trying to be a Triple H apologist here because it was a dog shit situation. I can see how the subtext was, I'd rather this guy be the guy, but there was zero explanation. Like, clearly he was endorsing the idea of that match, but without any real explanation as to, hey, I just won the Rumble and now I want this to happen. So, this does, if this is true, and again, there is a big caveat here, Larson, in that we have seen the WWE recently, most famously with Justin Barrasso, offer up disinformation, misinformation, in an attempt to swerve.
Yeah, there could be something else about all that later on, but continue on. You said you had a conspiracy. I want to hear it.
Oh, no, I don't know. This is actually wildly more crazy than anything I have to say.
Well, here, let's get to this. I'm excited. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's go to the next part. Let's go to the next part.
So I'm excited to I want to see your reaction as I read this because this is something else.
Okay.
Meltzer also added, quote, at the Mania press conference on February 8th in Las Vegas, Levesque talked about guys going into business for themselves with the idea The Rock was going against the planned script. Get ready, Steve. Later, they filmed a segment which didn't air on television, but was all over social media where Levesque and Rock went nose to nose and actually challenged each other for a match at Mania. Although it was they would love to each other before a giant... What the heck? Although it was they would love to each other before a giant crowd at a WrestleMania without the idea it was a specific one. Given Levesque's heart issues, such a match would seem to be impossible, and virtually everyone believed that to be the case. The fact that it was never put on television says it was not something they wanted to hammer home as a storyline, and more as a way to make people think the two weren't getting along with the idea that aspect of the angle was real. I got a question for you. Does this segment actually exist? Because I've never seen it. The only thing I can think...
Not only did it not air on television, it didn't air anywhere.
No. Is he referring to the bit after the press conference where The Rock tells Triple H to fix it and assume whatever they bleeped out was The Rock saying something like, you're lucky? So when it turns out, he says, The Rock says,
I'm going to slap the teeth out of his mouth, referring to Cody.
You're lucky I don't effing, he said, yeah.
So,
slap the teeth out of his mouth. And then the Roman says, you're lucky. And then Triple H says, yeah, you are too.
Yeah, right.
So that's the only thing I can think of that he's referencing here.
Dude, I don't know that exists.
As written here, that does not exist. It did not happen unless it happened years ago, and and there's some confusion about when that happened.
If the idea is they filmed something that didn't air on television, and we can assume from this writing that it did air elsewhere, no, it didn't. That does not exist.
No.
Now, if it is on Brian Gewirtz's phone or any of the 3 or 4 production people that were surrounding, that's one thing I love to see is the background of the backstage bit where you have 2 people running up on them, one with the phone, one with the DSLR, and then they had a third person on the opposite angle filming all that stuff too. I love that stuff. Yeah. I want a couple of people walking around with us, Larson, filming all of our kayfabe movements. That does not exist out in on TV, out of TV, nothing like that. Now, I have seen plenty of online speculation that seems to completely forget that Triple H has a very real heart condition that would preclude. Triple H is not the kind of guy to put his boots in the ring and then come back. So that was never going to happen.
No.
Now, let's give the benefit of the doubt to the other guys here. If they did film something and word got out, potentially maybe there was some language used about like a violent encounter or a fight. But I don't think for a second Triple H would ever tease that he's going to be in a match of any sort.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. It's a Randy the Ram situation. You can't do that.
No.
So that's off the table. That's craziness.
Yeah.
Now, if that footage exists, I'd love to see it, but I'd be really shocked.
It's one thing to say the footage exists, but they never aired it, but to say that it was spread all over social media.
Is that the language used?
Later, they filmed a segment which didn't air on television.
Over social media.
Social media where Levesque and Rock went nose to nose and actually challenged each other for a match at Mania.
That never happened.
No,
that doesn't exist.
No,
there were more angles filmed of that backstage segment that we did see on television.
Yeah,
there were additional social media specific angles filmed of that same thing, but at no point was a match suggested between the two.
No.
So that's weird.
That is strange.
Let's rewind to let's for the sake of conversation. And here's the thing. These days, dude, look, it's fun to talk about this stuff. In terms of the real story, I don't think anybody has that. I honestly don't. I really don't. I honestly don't know how much of this was creative blunders, pivoting, original plans. I don't know what any of it is. Yeah. I will almost guarantee you tonight on SmackDown, and maybe I'll eat my words on Saturday morning, but I'll almost guarantee you Rock's going to try to get this match changed to Rock Roman again, and he's going to do something from a corporate point of view that'll probably like suspend Triple H or usurp his power. I get the feeling that they'll pull some sort of angle like that because they're building this as a big deal on SmackDown. So they're gonna mess around with this. And in Elimination Chamber, I think it was announced that it's going to be Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins on the Grayson Waller effect. Yep. Maybe they'll build the tag. If there's going to be a tag match, they'll build that there. Or Seth's just going to say, "I got your back." Either way. Let's roll with this as the real story, though, just for the sake of conversation, because
including the nose to nose backstage.
No, not that. No, that's completely disqualified from any further conversation because it's Fantasyland. Okay, that shit didn't happen. We did not phase shift, man. No. Anyways, but for the sake of conversation, let's take this first bit as actual backstage details of what happened. Yeah. That's dicey ground to have Cody Rhodes. So the idea would have been Cody, Punk Rollins, if Punk hadn't been injured. Yeah. And it still would have been Cody Roman, and they just would have taken the long route getting there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it would have been Cody. Sorry, it would have been Rollins Punk.
Yeah.
For the World Heavyweight title.
That's done. Yeah.
Cody still would have won, assuming this is everything in here is accurate.
Sure.
Cody would have won the Rumble. I guess the following SmackDown, rather than Cody stepping aside, he would have gotten beaten down. Rock would have stepped up, taken his place to make the match at Mania. And I guess Cody would just have that world title shot in his back pocket to use whenever he wanted for winning the Rumble.
What would he have done at WrestleMania, though? That's the there's a gap in the reporting here.
There is, because you don't have Cody not involved in WrestleMania at a very high level. You know? Was he supposed to take on Drew McIntyre, and that's why Drew beat him down and looked at the Mania sign?
Yeah.
Was that in the works? But I feel like that happened after. Didn't that happen after that SmackDown?
Here's the gap. This would lead to the official announcement of Reigns versus Rock at the press conference in Las Vegas. In the end, Rhodes would return, and he should win the title. Rhodes was never going to get screwed and was always going to get a match with Reigns, but whether it would be at Mania or shortly after is not clear. Okay, so even Dave admits it's not clear what Rhodes would have done at WrestleMania.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Drew, Damian Priest, none of that stuff makes sense for Cody Rhodes. It really doesn't.
Were they going to do a injury angle that was going to keep Cody out through WrestleMania? Was that
not
the
a
idea?
Chance.
No, absolutely not.
We take that off the table, right?
Or was it going to be a situation where he was written off TV only to return at WrestleMania after Roman beat The Rock to confront Roman then and be like, "Hey, tomorrow on Raw or Friday on SmackDown, that's when I get my that's when I'm cashing in my title opportunity."
Yeah,
maybe that, but even that doesn't make sense. You have Cody wrestle at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
he's your top babyface. How do you not have him wrestle at WrestleMania?
Yeah, that's all bizarre. That's all bizarre stuff. So I don't know. Honestly, it's difficult to make heads or tails. It's difficult to understand. Okay, clearly there seemed to be some sort of creative pivot when it comes to Cody Rhodes saying, "I'm stepping aside for The Rock," and then the press conference was announced, and then Cody stepped up and said, "No, I'm taking this back."
That's bullshit.
Yeah, but in terms of like the exact play by play. We're gonna have to wait for Brian Gewirtz to write another book.
If we ever get the real story of this.
Oh, I think honestly, dude, I kind of feel like we will at some point. Way down, I'm saying way down the line because he's already
30
written one
years
book.
down the line. Yeah,
he's already written one book, maybe 5 years down the line, because I feel like The Rock understood. The Rock says. I think The Rock, being a Hollywood guy, understands. Dude, he literally just released a statement to combat a real world, situation.
Yeah.
Where he said, "This is a performance. I turned heel. I'm the bad guy here."
Yeah. He's been pretty open about the transparency of his involvement in the wrestling and what his role in it is. Absolutely.
I would imagine once we get that book, it'll be from Gewirtz's point of view, but I kind of feel like that will be the most accurate situation that we would get. So I suspect that at some point we'll get the full story. I have a hard time believing kind of anybody right now when it comes to definitive accounts of what's going on and in everybody's orbit. We've often said that Fightful Select is a great place to go if you want, because obviously Sean is close to a lot of the wrestlers in WWE, and he's got a lot of good information that's just from various points of view. Like when he says Punk was told that he was going to face Rollins at WrestleMania. I believe that. That's been confirmed by a ton of people. But
yeah.
Sean Ross Sapp has said, him and CM Punk, they've talked. He's outlined their relationship, and I have no reason to doubt that whatsoever. His reporting is spot on. There's a lot of jumping through hoops in what we just read, though, and it's interesting to see and understand. Or try to comprehend what kind of, I don't want to say games necessarily, but what WWE is throwing people, what they're biting on, what could be the truth, what could be, disinformation, misinformation. But to me, it's part of the ride. And I think that's a lot of fun, man. It keeps us guessing,
It does. It is part of the ride, and it is fun. And we've spoken in the past about those in the wrestling sphere who are trying to make a coherent, cohesive narrative with a bunch of contradictory information as it relates to the Rock, Roman, Cody stuff. And given the fact that, especially the Justin Barrasso case where it seemed like there was misinformation put out there purposely, potentially, to whether it's to bring some confusion to the outcome of what was going to happen at the Rumble, not make it so perhaps obvious that Cody was going to win, whatever. If that's implemented by people within WWE now to whether it's to kind of suss out leaks, where they're coming from, or is it simply just to put a bunch of information out there so the outcomes of the matches on the shows aren't so clear? It seems to be something that's happening, and to try to take that information, which might not be reliable, with perhaps reliable information and square that all together is difficult to do.
Dude, there's a wider discussion that I've seen, especially with the Vince McMahon stuff, over wrestling media, wrestling journalists, and their relationship to the wrestling industry. And oftentimes it's been related to sports media. And I think it's a disingenuous or an ill attempt to create an analogy between the two, because I don't really see it. Wrestling media to me feels more like entertainment media, so many of them. And you know this intimately, you go, you do the press junket stuff, you interview the actors, and, the obvious difference being in the entertainment industry, they're cool given, creative, the behind the scenes details on how creative works there. And so often, because it's, once in a lifetime, once in a generation, that you get an actual serious story like the Vince McMahon stuff. Oftentimes when wrestling media is confronted by or has the opportunity to question, Triple H, there's often that you get the softball questions because the industry is so protected. They're not going to talk about script writing, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lighter nature to the general narrative of the relationship between the media and the industry. And I wonder if that's why WWE is sort of playing with the idea of let's give the dirt sheets something that will help fuel our narrative. Seth Rollins bitching backstage after CM Punk's return when he knew damn well he was showing up.
Yeah.
To fuel the speculation that he's not happy, and using the dirt sheets and their sources to do it is a prime example of that.
Yeah. Using knowing very well that there's people backstage who talk to wrestling media outlets and using that to advance a story being told. Absolutely. Yeah. It feels like that's something within the last few months that's happened more often, seemingly. It's
a very unique thing to pro wrestling.
Yes, it is.
And given that there's such a, I understand that there is a demand amongst, for example, Marvel fans to know, what the plots are going to be coming up. And I don't think that the movie industry uses the trades to throw disinformation as to who Ant-Man is going to be fighting in his latest movie. That just seems to not really happen. In wrestling, that seems to be a tack that the WWE is sort of taking right now, which is kind of interesting because, 12,000 people now sub to Fightful Select. I don't know how many thousands of people, are subscribers to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. But to try to work the marks, work the sheets, work whatever you want to call it, it'll be interesting to see how much they're able to get away with.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's pivot here. Exciting contract news.
Oh, man.
Why are we so obsessed with Drew McIntyre's contract? I don't know.
Obsessed. Man, last night, Larson, I was laying in bed. I was like, gosh darn it, Drew McIntyre's contract. When is he going to sign?
How much money? How rich is he going to be?
Drew McIntyre contract.
Yeah, I know. Just in the shower and you're washing your hair and you just can't think anything but Drew McIntyre. McIntyre's contract.
His conditioner's so good on my hair. Drew McIntyre's contract. Oh, God, I gotta wash this stuff out.
So a couple days ago, I believe it was Wednesday, we talked about speculation from PW Insider's Mike Johnson that Drew McIntyre may have signed a new WB deal because he was advertised for a show in Italy in May, and I think the presumption was that his contract was up shortly after WrestleMania. Fightful Select reported yesterday that Drew and WB have had negotiations for a new deal, and both sides, quote, want to get a deal done, but that no new contract has been agreed upon, much less signed. Dave Meltzer also mentioned on a recent Wrestling Observer Radio, quote, Drew McIntyre was announced for a show in Italy in May, and obviously his contract is up in April. So I guess the first question was, has he signed a new deal? And the answer to that is no. He has not signed a new deal, but he seems very happy so far with his new character, and he's really excited about it. They're working with the idea that he's not going anywhere, but nothing is signed. But I think the talk of him taking a lot of time off and everything like that, probably not. And he'll probably sign a new deal, but it's still just a probably until it happens. Then Drew was actually asked about his contract status during an interview with Westport. And this is what Drew had to say. Quote, I can't talk, transcript from Fightful. I can't talk about that. I'll let the internet talk about it. I'll just keep watching. It's interesting. I'm not the only one that has a contract in WB. It's just interesting that it seems to be mine that is on there every week for a year.
Okay, stop the presses. He just gave us full permission to speak on it because, Larson, we are internet.
We are internet.
So we can talk about as much as we want to, YouTube commenter.
Yeah.
Drew said he endorses us speaking about his contract.
We have Drew's blessing.
We have his blessing, and he's happy that we're out. Internet here is talking about it. The Stephen Larson Internet Podcast.
I mean, it has been an ongoing thing for what, months? Ever since he was off TV for a spell, and there was reports that, he's not happy with his creative. They're far apart on money, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I would assume Drew understands that right now wrestlers have a lot of leverage when it comes to negotiating new deals.
Yep.
and seemingly he's being smart about exercising that leverage to maximize the deal he gets next. And that's good business for Drew McIntyre.
He's a big deal. We love him. Deal. We love his work. Seems like a pleasant fella. Yeah, I'd love to see him continue this story in WWE. So until I know that pen has been to paper, or sorry, DocuSign has been completed and a PDF is in Drew McIntyre's email box, I'm not going to rest soundly, Larson.
Well, I guess you could say until he clicks the box for a generic signature to be put in the box.
Exactly.
Via DocuSign, yes.
Oh, man. Anyways, so, yeah, that's cool to know. Before we talk about the growing, persistent, consistent frustration within AEW, want to ask our friendos out there, if you're watching the show and if you enjoy the show, do us a solid, hit that subscribe button and the notify bell so that you always know when there's new Going in Raw content. Man, we're at 200,666, man. The devil. So help us get away from Lucifer and into the next palindrome 201-102. We'd appreciate that. And then also hit that like button. That helps grow Going in Raw, gets us out there in the algorithm. The algorithm likes that, and guess what? We like it as well.
We do.
If you hit that like button, we got new merch over at friendoshop.com, and right now, celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Going in Raw. You can use promo code Friendo2024 to get 20% off at friendoshop.com. This WrestleJuice hat right here is part of that, and then also
other stuff.
Nothing else is laying around. And then also we've got bonus content later on today, I hope, or at the latest tomorrow, a new Friendo cast, episode 8, where we have a very spirited, lively discussion about music and how it's affected our lives, and then we answer a bunch of Friendo questions. It's like an hour and 15 minutes. This Friendo
cast.
It's
pretty long. It's a long one. We talk about music stuff, and I feel like it's just scratching the surface.
It really
in a lot
is,
of respects, but it's still a 40-minute conversation, basically.
Yeah. So the new Friendo cast is dropping soon. That's an exclusive series every single week that you can get by getting the Friendo Club setup, which you can get at patreon.com/Steven Larson, or by clicking join right here at youtube.com/Steven Larson. It's $5 a month, whichever way you choose to obtain the Friendo Club setup. It also gets you access to question threads for our shows and, of course, access to the Big Blue Predictions Challenge. The next Big Blue Predictions Challenge is coming up very shortly at our next Week of Champions, which includes 2 events, WWE's Elimination Chamber from Perth, and, of course, AEW Revolution, Sting's final match. And if anybody out there, if any of the friendos out there, believe that their predictive powers are superior, then we invite you to participate in the Big Blue Predictions Challenge. Try to dethrone Cameron Shank, right now the current Big Blue Predictions champion. And there's also going to be another prize on the line this time. What it will be, I don't know. I figured out.
Surprise.
This is a surprise.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's the plugs for you.
Speaking of surprises, I guess it's not surprising.
Wow,
more frustration within AEW because we hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
So, start here. Again, this comes from Meltzer Newsletter. It talks about a sense of frustration amongst AEW talents because of their attendance issues at their live events. Saying the following, quote, "We mentioned last week about morale being the best it's been in a long time. It was noted that the talent is getting along more than it has. But so many wrestlers under contract and only so many that can be pushed. Inherently, there's going to be frustration because most on the roster are not people just happy to not show their stuff and perform just because they're making good money. There are exceptions to that rule, but when you put together a roster of high-level performers, they're going to want to perform. There is also frustration from a lot of circles since talent comes to the shows and sees the smaller crowd since the start of the year. Tony Khan always paints a positive picture about the company being stronger due to increased revenues or bringing up ratings, and there's a feeling that popularity is declining overall and changes have to be made to turn around, and he's acting like everything is fine."
Let's pause there because this next thing is kind of a story into itself.
Yes.
It is, I can absolutely understand this. He does every single time he's in a media scrum or an interview, And I just honestly think maybe, and maybe you can speak on this too, it might just be like a American corporate 2024 thing where everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything is roses. You always just look at the positive. I mean, God, Triple H did the same thing at that disastrous Royal Rumble press conference when these horrible allegations about Vince McMahon dropped, and they were like, hey, have you read the lawsuit? Do you know about this? What's going on? I just want to focus on the positives. Wrong answer.
Yeah, wrong answer.
You got to keep it real, man. These crowds are tiny, and it's just it can't be fun for the wrestlers to go out and have to deal with that. And there is a certain perception about AEW right now, and I'm not going to say it's they still have good stuff going on, and they still have, from a business perspective, some good things. Their ratings,
yeah, absolutely.
Usually, like the ratings are, while not like growing, they've been averaging like 850,000. They hasn't
for
dipped.
Dynamite, yeah.
Dynamite has. Collision did a pretty good number for Collision last week, and that was up from the week before.
Yeah.
And it's always one of the top rated shows in, like, I guess the demo on cable or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, it's not all going down the toilet.
No.
But there is a lack of excitement around the product.
There is. And there's perception that the product has stagnated a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Because there hasn't been growth. Especially in the ratings department. In fact, in the attendance department, it's dipped quite a bit. And there's when they really load up a show or go to a market where they typically do well, and they'll still get a decent crowd. But there was reports of Collisions that were getting 1,500 people, 1,800 people. Yeah. And they're booking these shows in larger venues, and so they have to tarp off not only the entire upper deck, but the whole hard cam side of the building is kind of looking empty. And there's been a couple shows where you could very much sense how sparsely attended these shows are, especially in such large buildings. Mm-hmm. And they can try to disguise and shoot around the vast swaths of empty seats.
You can only do that so much.
You can only do that so much when you're watching a wrestling show, and you could tell they're in a large venue because you see the space around the ring.
Yeah. And
then the crowd noise isn't commensurate with the size of the building.
Yeah.
You get the sense about, okay, there's not a whole lot of people here.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to the excitement level surrounding the product, which is nowhere near what it used to be, despite the fact that ratings, at least for Dynamite, are pretty consistent. Collision's all over the map, but that's kind of dependent on what it's up against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and if Tony Khan's philosophy is, focusing strictly on the positives and highlighting those in an effort to, whether it's, we'll focus on the metrics that are favorable to us in hopes of promoting the product, putting forth the perception that everything's great and wildly successful, helping them get a better TV deal. Because right now, the way the wrestling business is, so much about your success financially depends on your TV deal, not live show attendance. So
sure,
if the idea is, I'm cool getting 2,000 people paid in the building for our shows if I can get a $100 million a year cable deal, then that's a win for AEW. And if you look at the balance sheet, he's probably not wrong in that respect.
Yeah. I've often speculated about like their touring pattern, like where they're going, the markets they're going to, and if they're maximizing their potential, by not hitting certain markets or hitting certain markets too much.
Yeah.
And if that's simply a cost, thing, it's like, okay, well, we can get 5,000 if we go to this place, but it's costing us a bunch more rather than just sticking in this area where we'll get 2,000. Is that really going to make that big of a difference, in the pocketbook, in the wallet? Or is it actually going to cost you more money to tour if you're only going to get that much more of a return on it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Come here, Mike. That's speculation on my part, because you're right. What matters is the TV deal. And right now, like their TV, it's not bleeding. It's not doing terribly. And in fact, on most nights, on most Wednesdays, it's like, the number one show on cable.
Yeah.
So that's not that terrible, you know? So I don't know. But you know, I think it maybe as an employee, as a performer, contractor, whatever, you just want maybe a little bit more honesty, you know?
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
know if that's the situation. I mean, that's one thing I will say about Dave Meltzer. I know we just talked about misinformation, disinformation. If there is one place he is definitely plugged into, it's AEW.
Yeah.
Like we all understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, this next bit is pretty interesting because apparently another source of frustration within AEW relates to the company's new partnership with CMLL. Meltzer noted this. As noted before, the deal with CMLL is that on any television show that their talent appears on, no other Mexican wrestlers can appear. It doesn't matter if they work for AAA or not, or did in the past. It's no other Mexican wrestlers can appear. Some of the prior Mexican talent is mad that Tony Khan agreed to those terms, noting that AAA never made a demand like that for AEW to not feature CMLL talent, even though they were warring in Mexico. It was noted that Penta and Phoenix were in AEW from day one in particular, and the feeling it's disrespectful to them that there would be shows, including perhaps multiple pay-per-views this year, including any pay-per-view anyone from CMLL is booked on, that they couldn't even be allowed on the show. That sounds horrible.
So I'm looking back here, and on the first episode of Dynamite where it was Volador, the first time that CML wrestlers sat ringside, where it was Mox versus Jeff Hardy was a match. Commander was on the card. He wrestled Wardlow later on. That was February
that's right. Yeah.
1st. So I'm kind of going through here to see if there's any other shows. And maybe that's a new thing. I don't know. But I remember that specifically, how Commander was on the card later on.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that on the show. I remember that.
We did. So,
grain of salt on that one, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing going forward now that they feel like the partnership's on firmer ground. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, Revolution's coming up, but I don't think there's a CMLL involvement in there yet.
Yeah, I don't believe so either.
I don't know if there's going to be one, though, because Danielson's already taken on Kingston. Mox and Claudio seem to be in this FTR thing, so I wonder if the remainder of the CMLL relationship is simply in CMLL, where this is not even going to be an issue.
Yeah, it could be.
Hopefully that'll be the case.
Yeah, that could be. Who knows? But we've heard in the past where, like, Andrade couldn't be involved in Forbidden Door.
Oh yeah, there's been a whole mess of stuff in the past.
You know, and same with the Lucha Brothers, because they were, wrestlers who worked for AAA, and given New Japan's relationship with CMLL,
to a degree,
they couldn't be on the Forbidden Door shows.
I mean, if there are active wrestlers in companies that are warring, I understand keeping them, off the same shows. I would understand why that would be a thing. That being said, if and I know Pentagon and Phoenix, they still appear for AAA. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? That's their business, not mine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that one. You want to do a SmackDown preview?
Let's do a SmackDown preview. The Rock says Roman Reigns to return to SmackDown. So
Rock's going to movement. He's going to flex that board of directors muscle.
You would think so. Miz and Logan Paul square off an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Logan Paul is going to advance there, you'd think.
Definitely. Yeah.
Zelina Vega battles Tiffany Stratton in Elimination Chamber qualifying match.
Yeah, Stratton's going to go ahead in that one.
You'd think so. Kevin Owens looks to gain entry into Chamber by facing Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Kevin Owens probably going to win that one.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And then Naomi faces Alba Fire in another Chamber qualifying match. Naomi's going to qualify.
Yes, she'll qualify. Yeah, her first match back since the Rumble. I think so. That's cool. Would you like to answer some questions?
Let's answer some questions.
All right. AJ Otani says, if you had to choose an insult to turn into a nickname, what would it be? He says, I'd go with the Immortal Slime from WrestleMania 7. Well, it'd be the Shit Twins.
Shit Twins. Yeah, we did kind of embrace that.
Mm-hmm,
Someone called us the Shit Twins in a comment years ago.
Go ahead and read the next question.
Larson. All right. Cameron Bordalazzo here says, since McGriddles are the food of choice for Saudi shows,
yeah,
what's going to be your snack for the 2 a.m. show in Perth?
Oh, dude, I don't know that I'm going to be eating. I don't need to eat at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Probably not.
Yeah. I don't.
Probably energy drink to keep me up. I don't know.
Oh God, your heart explodes on air.
Yeah. No.
I don't know. I might have some like peanut butter and Ritz crackers.
Oh, there you go.
I like that as a combo. You drink some milk with it because your mouth is so dry.
Yeah, no.
Let's see here. Oh, John and Alistair voice says this. John, he says, "Can you guys attempt to sit like Will Riker does?" Yeah, but you can't do it on these gaming chairs, on these office chairs. Because you know what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's the Riker maneuver. He hurdles a chair to sit down in it.
Yeah. But he sits backwards in it, doesn't he?
How does it work? No, he approaches it from behind. The chair's in the
position. Lift it up and pushes it forward, right?
And he just.
Oh, gotcha.
He
swings his leg
Nash's
over
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like going over the top rope.
Yeah.
In a very confident manner.
You need a very low back chair for that.
You can't do that with office chairs. He's a tall dude,
high.
but still, that's a lot.
I'm not that flexible to swing my leg over this. Should I even try? Justin Sider says, "What is your favorite wrestling phrase become a part of your everyday speech?"
No sell.
No sell. That's in there.
Me and Lacey both use that quite a bit.
Work and shoot. I'll use those.
Yeah, I'll use kayfabe sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
But yeah, every day I use no sell. Nexterzu says, if the rumors of a World Heavyweight Championship triple threat at Mania are to be believed, how do you put Sammy into that match if Drew wins in the chamber? You don't, because he's a loser.
Yeah, he's a losing wrestler.
You put somebody else in there.
Because even if he beats Drew in a singles match with the stipulation that he earns a spot in that, like one win over is supposed to make up for 12 straight losses? How many straight losses Sammy has? No,
he needs to go on a streak. He needs to get on AEW Dark and rack up a couple of easy wins.
He needs to get those power ratings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Mercer asks, "What are your top 5 WrestleManias of all time?" So rapid fire.
Okay. 31. 39, 2002.
Is that the one you went to?
No, I went to.
That's
2005.
18 is 2000.
18, yeah. That was the
Rock Hogan.
Hogan, Austin NWO, and then Flair Undertaker, I think. I don't know, 14 probably. Well, I don't know, 14 really wasn't that good, to be honest.
No, it wasn't that great.
I don't know. My memory's so dog shit.
30, 31.
Oh yeah, 30. I put 30 in there.
17.
Was that a good one?
Yeah, that's the one where Stone Cold turned heel, but the rest of the cards,
yeah, everybody says that's a really good.
Generally regarded as one of, if not the best WrestleMania.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, 39 was good.
In mine too, because I was at 21, and that's a good one. They had the Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind.
Okay, right on. Well, let's see.
I haven't seen 17 in a long time, so maybe it's not that good. I don't know.
I mean, it might be. You're right. People generally say that's like one of the better ones. Is that the one where they did the European Intercontinental Championship all wrapped into one?
No, that was 16. That was the one I went to. That was not a good WrestleMania. 17. Stone Cold Rock, Undertaker, Triple H. Oh, the TLC match for the tag titles.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else? What else on
there? Jericho and Regal for the Intercontinental title.
That was probably good.
Kane, Raven, and Big Show for the Hardcore title. Is that the one with the golf cart?
Maybe. Oh, yeah, probably.
Eddie versus Test for the European Championship. Kurt Angle and Benoit. China versus Ivory.
All right. Yeah, I'm not gonna put that in mine. I don't remember shit from it. I remember the very end, and that made me mad. Coach John Pliskin says, "Who should be entered in the WWE 2024 Hall of Fame?" Oh, we've talked about this before. It's like Pillman, Batista, China as a solo act.
Yeah.
Probably like Paul Heyman, maybe.
Yeah.
Shane Douglas, obviously.
Yeah. Franchise. Steve wants the franchise in there.
The Hall of Fame is now franchised.
Rye here is asking best potato chip brand and flavor. Go. So we can't put Fritos because Fritos are corn chips.
I don't like any of that. I'd go with OG Pringles.
Yeah, OG Pringles are pretty good. Yeah. It's salt and pepper kettle chips, the kettle brand for me. Those are awesome.
Good. Those are good, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, wow. Jonathan Vieira says, if Going in Raw was set in the 1930s, what do you change your podcast name to?
Ooh.
Well, okay, so, obviously we got the name Going in Raw. It's a sexual euphemism, and on top of that, it's got WWE Raw in the name because we used to do pay-per-view reviews leading into Going in Raw. Leading into Raw.
Yeah.
So, what is an event or a venue name for like 1930s catch wrestling? Going in catch. Catching in Raw.
I mean, Raw didn't exist, so there'd be no reason for Raw to be in the title. There wasn't weekly television at the time.
The Hackenschmidt Show. The Hackenschmidt Radio Hour.
There you go. There you go.
Welcome. It was the Dapper Dan presents the Hackenschmidt Radio Hour.
Exactly. Probably more like Lucky Strike.
Lucky in the 30s, really?
Yeah.
Did they advertise cigarettes back then? What's a big?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, General Oats or something like that. Ford Motors.
Yeah, all those, man. If you're getting those sponsors.
Oh man, you're doing big business right there.
Luis here says, would you guys look at the wrestling rumors last year or 5 years ago this time and see if any of them played out or how they played out? Oh, Cage Side Seats used to do the rumor roundup where they'd look, I think it was 6 to 12 months.
Dude, let's do that for Friendo Club Wrestling.
That'd be fun, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Go to a video with a news story from 5 years ago and see how it played out.
I still want to do like reacting to us doing breaking news stuff, like the creation of AEW and all that kind of stuff. That could be a lot of fun.
That could be fun. Justin here says, do you think all the injuries in WWE recently are just a coincidence, or is there something related to the training style WWE does? It reminds me of when some professional sports teams have a whole lot of injuries in a short period of time, and then the team decides to adjust their training routines. Was it like in the spell, like when in NXT, like when Kenta was there and hurt his shoulder? I thought someone else had a shoulder injury, or they thought maybe that part of the reason that Finn's shoulder got jacked up was due to training or something. Maybe I'm pulling that out of my rear end, but like there was a spell of injuries in NXT, I think around that time, and maybe it is training. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it is how they're conditioning the people at the Performance Center. I don't know.
I do feel like there's been a bit of a improvement with what's going on at the Performance Center. Because, like, it did seem like there was a period of time, like, like Rich Holland catching a dude and blowing out both of his legs.
Both his legs, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Finn's shoulder injury was a fluke thing, and you see how he takes that buckle bomb into the barricade. Like, I don't know how you could avoid injury in that case. Mm-hmm. I just thought I saw something about that, but that's probably me misremembering or imagining something.
No, it sounds familiar. Let's see here. I am the Rocky Feller says, oh, this is an easy one. In kayfabe, why does Rhea Ripley not interact directly with Judgment Day as much as she used to? Because they're a pill. Because Damian Priest is a pill. My goodness. Yeah. He's just always walking around mad face. The final straw for me would have been like, oh, we didn't all get on the video game cover. It's like, where's the congratulations?
Let's see here. Frozen Tape asks, how do y'all book the Andre Battle Royal for it to mean something? Like, what would the winner get?
Oh, friggin' mid-card title shot.
There you go.
If it's supposed to, like, crown kind of a newish, up-and-coming guy, you got to give him something. Give him a title shot.
Yeah.
Mid-card title shot. Mid-card Money in the Bank. That's what you do.
There we go. Yeah, that's it.
We did it. All right.
Cash in that giant trophy.
Yeah, man. All right. We good? We done?
Sure.
All right, cool. Anyways, hopefully everybody here has a good weekend, and we'll see you guys bright and early on Monday afternoon. Till next time, we'll see you around.
Goodbye.